everyone. Today's Precalc adventures are going over the group quiz that you have already taken. Hopefully it was a good idea for you to work with somebody. Maybe you did FaceTime, maybe you just texted back and forth, but it would be a good idea to work on it with somebody else. So what we're going to do today is we're just going to go over the answers, and then after you have corrected your work, you're going to fill out a Google form that just kind of like tells me how you did. I'm not giving you a score based on how you did, but I am just giving you like credit for doing the assignment. So that's what you're going to do after watching this video, which hopefully won't be too long. So let's go ahead and get the PowerPoint pulled up. I have decided to go ahead and make just the quiz answers into a PowerPoint. And so let's take a look at this and let's get going. So numbers 1 through 11 on the quiz had to do with that first data set where it talked about strikeout totals that were recorded by 16 pitchers. And so with that data, the first thing you want to do, like very first, is to put that data in order. And so you can see that what I did is I just went through and I put all the data in order, and then that was allowed me to be more able to then do all the other questions. Okay, so that would be the very first thing, is to put the data in order. After you put the data in order, it said make a frequency distribution using classes of length 10. And I decided to make it start with 140. And then remember, when you do the classes, whatever their length is, it's this jump right here, this jump that is the next length. So that is 10. This is 10. This is 10. And then it's just the value that goes right here is 1 less than the 10 jump. So that's why it's from 140 to 149. And if you actually think about the numbers, that would actually be 10 values, because you would start with 140 and then 141, etc. So it would actually be 10 values. I filled in my frequency chart, which gave it a 1, a 3, a 2, a 3, a 0, a 4, and a 3. And yes, I know that there's 0 right here for the 180 to 189, but that's beautiful. The third question, the second question asks you to construct a stem and leaf plot. And probably for this one, because we have numbers in the 100s, is to make this stem be both the hundreds digit and the tens digit. And then here's your leaves over here. It's really important to put the key in, right? So if you did not make a key, like JK, I need to go make that key. You can make it with any number that you want to. You can pick the first number. You can pick a number in the middle. It doesn't really matter. I just randomly picked this one. And then notice, because there was no values in the 180s, that I just left it blank, okay? Also notice something. Do you guys see that this is just the numbers listed? There's no commas. That is a mistake that a lot of people make, is putting commas in this list. That's not what we're doing. You literally just list the numbers. And then like for 165, there was 2 of them, so I write 2 5s. It's also the most polite to put them in number order. So it really should look like this. Okay, moving on to question number 3, you're basically taking the data that you made in the frequency distribution and then making it into your histogram. Okay, so remember, part of this unit is trying to remember like what the vocabulary means. And so this is a histogram. And so notice that I have my tick marks right here, and then these values that were in the frequency distribution, these are 140 to 149. It's not on a tick mark, it's underneath the bar, just like this. And then I make all of my values. So it should look a little something like that. Okay, moving on to the frequency polygon. Let me erase that thing right there, okay? The frequency polygon, now what you do is you take the midpoint of each of the categories on the previous. So this guy right here, 140 to 149, what I would do is I put that in my calculator, 140 plus 149, and divide by 2. And then I would get this guy right here, 144.5. Then basically what I did is I just added 10, and then added 10, and then added 10, et cetera, et cetera. And then I got all the other tick marks. And then remember, with your frequency polygon, you have to, quote, tie it down. So what I did is I went 10 to the left-hand side, and after my last guy, 10 again to the right-hand side to make the 0 values. And then this is what your frequency polygon will look like. For the box and whisker plot, and actually all the questions underneath it, also, you have to do some calculation. So if you remember on the box and whisker plot, this value in the middle right here is the median. It has to be the middle value of the data. And when I look back at my data, from the very, very top, the middle term is halfway between 174 and 175. And so that gives me a value of 174.5. And then I found the median of the bottom half, which happens to be 162. I believe I had to take the average of 159 and 165. So that's this value right here. This value right here is your Q1, if I can get that typed. Oh, that wasn't horrible. And then this value right here is your Q3 value. Okay, so your Q3 value was in between 1, 2, 3, 4. It was in between 195 and 198. So I had to take the average of those two values. And then plotted that guy right there, which would, yep, there it is. And then this is your upper extreme right here, which would be 208, and your lower extreme over here, which is 147. On my box and whisker plot, you should try to make it proportional. What I did is I just did on my x-axis just values that looked convenient. I didn't just label these values, right? Like I literally just kind of made a number line and then put the data appropriately. And then you can kind of see that there's like less stuff here and more here. And then you can kind of like get the feel for the data. Okay. So then they asked you to using probably like the stuff that you did on that box and whisker, find some fun stuff. So I'm going to go from the bottom. The range is 61. The way that we get the range is you do 208 and subtract 147. The mean is literally adding all those values up and dividing. If I did my math right, it was 2,856 and then divided by 16. The mode would be the most occurring, and I got that from my list, and that was definitely 195. The median was on my histogram. It was 174.5. Q1 was on my, not histogram. Back up, JK. Super confusing. Got a mistake there. I apologize. That one was the median I got from the box and whisker plot. Jeez, Mrs. Fox. One of them that might have been a little bit difficult is this number 6 right here. Okay, finding the percentile. Okay, you're like, I didn't even know what to do with that, Mrs. Fox. I might have even forgotten exactly what percentile meant, that was the notation. And I understand it's been a while since we did that one. But what happens is if you remember, you do your percentile. So whatever the percent is going to be equal to, this is really hard to write. It's the number that is below it, right? So it's the number below. Let's just write in cursive because that seems easier at the moment. Okay, the number below over your total number. Okay, and so that does not even say total. Okay, do you know what I meant? I'm going to erase that because that doesn't make any sense. It's over your total number, you guys. Okay. So it's over your total number. And then what ends up happening is because I knew what the total number was, then I just do the percentile, which was 0.75 times the total number. And the total number for this guy was a 16. And then I got that this turned out to be 12. So it ended up being the 12th term. So I looked at my data set and counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and got the 12th term, and the 12th term happens to be 195. Very nice. Okay, the last two on the bottom here asked us for the standard deviation and the variance, and I said, please put your data in the table to the right. So what I did with all of this, it was a new set of data, right? The new set of data. I went ahead and just listed all the terms right here. I had to find X minus X bar, which means I needed to find the mean. So this right here was my calculation for finding the mean. I added up all the values. I got 88, and then I divided by 11 and got 8. And so then I went like 11 minus 8. No, just kidding. What am I talking about? That is wrong. You know what? Seriously, again with the scramble. Really need to pay attention to my notes. What I did is I found the mean by doing, where's my little mousey mouse go? There you go. I found X bar was the mean, and I got 15. That's better. So I added up all of these values right here. divided by 11, and I got 15. So then I went 11 minus 15, and then I went 13 minus 15, and then I went 15 minus 15, and 17 minus 15, and all that good jazz to get all of these values right here. I squared each of those values, and then I got 88. Okay, so to do 88, I have to do 88 divided by 11. So now I'm back up to this step right here. And that gives me 8 for the variance. And then I went ahead and I took the square root of 8. And the square root of 8 gave me about 2.83 for the standard deviation. Okay, and notice I made this easy enough that there was no weird decimals. So yeah, just we're testing a concept, not like if you could add a whole bunch of weird numbers. Okay, then we went to the back, and of course, oh, the back, maybe not the back. Yours is organized a little bit different. But we had number 14, and number 14 said, assume that SAT scores are normally distributed, and that approximately 68% of the population lies between 400 and 600 folks. You know what that means, okay? That means that it's the empirical rule stuff, okay? So that means that this guy right here, this value of 500 is the mean, and it says 68%. Like you should have like latched onto that really easily. Like, oh my goodness, that is a special value. Excuse me. And that special value of 68 does make it be so that the standard deviation is 100, okay? So 100 this way and then 100 this way gives us the 34% in each of these two bands right here. And then it says what percent of the population scores above a 600. So 600, if in fact it is, right, the one standard deviation, all of this data right here, all of this stuff right here is 50%. And then this guy right here is 34%. And then I took the total of 1 and subtracted those two values, and I got about 16%. The next set of questions asks us to work with the table, okay? But I had to like find the Z-score and do some things. So number 15 just says, what is the Z-score that corresponds to 22.5 minutes? It looks like the average, the mean is the 27.33, and then the standard deviation is 5.12. So we take our Z-score. Z is going to be equal to X minus the mu, the mean, over the standard deviation. So I took the value of 22.5. I subtracted 27.33 and then divided by 512. And that's literally all that they wanted you to do. There was nothing else. Okay. They just wanted you to find the Z-score. I know a common mistake for some students is to now do the table with that. But this question just said find the Z-score. And so it's negative 0.94. Then, whoa, sorry about that. Then number 16, okay, says that we're going to find the probability that he drives to work in less than 25 minutes. So I need a Z-score that's going to represent that. So for my Z-score, I did my X value of 25 minus 27.33 and then divided by the standard deviation of 5.12. That gives me a negative 0.46. So now I had to consult my table. Okay, what I want right here, usually I put the want first, I guess I wrote it second, is this value right here is at negative 0.46 on my table. Right here, of course, is my 0 spot. On the table, it gives me this. So what I ended up doing is looking up 0.46 on the table. The area that it gave me was 0.6772. And then I had to use my thinking and decided, you know, hello, thinking, that this guy right here, all of this right here is the exact opposite of this stuff right here. So I went ahead and took 1 and then subtracted this number right here. And that gave me a value of 0.3228, just like that. Okay, so then we did some more things with our normal curves. And look, I just want to show you guys something. Look how amazing all my pictures are. Yeah, if you try to do this without a picture, seriously, I don't even know how that's possible. So what was interesting about number 17, it says to the left of 1.49. So I did my 1.49 value right here. And what I want, and actually what the table gives me, is exactly the same thing. So when I looked it up on the table, boom, there's my answer. And it was just 0.9319. That's it. Yay, woo! Okay, so then it says to the right of negative 0.45. So I do my value, but this one was interesting because it said to the right of, right? Totally interesting there. And so what I did is I went ahead and I made my picture for what I want. And then I went to my table and I looked up positive 0.45. It gave me an area of 0.6736. And then I used my thinking again. And the picture of what I wanted and the picture of the table is actually the exact same thing. It's just flipped. Okay. So it's just flipped, which is totally fine. So it's the exact same answer of 0.6736. And then if you look at number 19, this was probably the most difficult one. I had to do what I wanted, but then I had to do two different table pictures, okay? I had to do one table picture and then another table picture and then put some stuff together. So what I want is basically like, here's your zero line. I want to the left-hand side, I want it to be negative 1.2, and to the right side, 2.35. So I had to make a table value for 1.2. I got 0.8849, but I don't want the whole thing. I'm going to take off this half over here. And so this strip right here, this strip is the same as this strip. And so I'm going to take 0.8849 and subtract 0.5 from that. And then to get the other guy, okay, I did my positive 0.235, and so it gave me this on my table. But again, this strip value right here, this value right here is the same as just this part right here. And so that means all of this over here needs to leave. So I took my 0.9906 and subtracted 0.5. I added the two values together, like after I on this one subtracted 0.5, and after on this one I subtracted 0.5. Again, why am I doing 0.5? Because after, like, to the left of the zero line is half of the data, and then added those two babies together and got 0.8755. Then it came time to do some graphing calculator work. And so I went ahead and I did my graphing calculator. I put in all of these guys right here were my my list 1 values. All these guys right here were my list 2 values for the X and the Y values. I made a scatter plot. When I drew my picture, I kind of like chunked up. I don't know if you could see this. I chunked up my, just kind of like said, you know what, listen, the values are really big. So I went ahead and like said on my, you know, like on my X and Y axis, just kind of shorten it up a little bit. I ran a linear regression, right? Because guys, this definitely, where's my little, there guys. I definitely looks like a line. So I went ahead and ran a linear regression, and this is what they gave me rounded to the nearest hundreds. What was my correlation coefficient? Remember, I had turned that feature on and my graphing calculator, and my R value is negative 0.9742. Why is it negative? Does that make sense? Well, yeah, okay. We talked about how this is a sort of like in the negative, a negative linear correlation. So it's going down. So that makes perfect sense. And then predict the number of miles per gallon. So basically what I did is I just took this value of 454 and plugged it into the engine size, which was the X value. So I just took my equation and I plugged it in. If you rounded just a little bit differently, you could have also gotten this value right here, 10.42. So if you have either of these answers, I would have called those a success. That's it, guys. That is all you have to do, okay? So your homework for today, I was going to make a fun sound, but I can't find it. Here it goes. Your homework for today is basically just correcting your quiz, but now I want you to go ahead and fill it up, the Google Classroom form, just to report your results. Guys, I am not going to grade it, like I'm not giving you your score, but I do want to know how you did. So on the Google form, you're going to report to me like how you did, what was your score, if you worked on it with anybody else, which I totally encouraged you to, and then give me something that you totally knew that was like super solid, and give me something that was like a little bit like, ooh, I probably would, if I were to take a test on this, which we're not taking a test right now, but if I were to take a test, I would need to, you know, like study that a little bit more. So that is basically where we're at, you guys. Okay. I hope that went pretty well. I hope that was pretty snazzy. And in a couple of days, maybe on Wednesday, I think we're going to go ahead. We're going to start our next unit, which is kind of cool. So I look forward to that. Right. And that's it. Okay. I hope you have an amazing, amazing day, and enjoy no homework, because really, once you corrected the quiz, you're totally done. And that's it, guys. I will see you later.